The Prichard water system is on the verge of collapsing. Last night in our NBC 15 reality check, we told you John Young, the court-appointed receiver of the Prichard system, issued a warning, saying the rapidly deteriorating infrastructure of the water and sewer system is poised to trigger a public health crisis. Today, we spoke with some customers about what they've been experiencing. Samantha Doyle tells us every time it rains, there's a raw sewage outside her apartment, and she's been getting the runaround for months.
The tissue, the whole road stuff just comes up and it sticks there. The smell is so bad to literally get sick off of it.
And last night on this newscast, the system's court-appointed receiver declared that the only way to prevent Prichard's situation from becoming like that of Flint, Michigan or Jackson, Mississippi is to have the Mobile area water and sewer system take over the troubled utility. Malls tells NBC 15 News for that to happen, its customers would have to be insulated from any negative effect of that plan. Utility says it needs to consider more information before reaching a decision. Young tells NBC 15 News he agrees the two systems would have to be kept separate.
Just because you keep separate books and separate financial records and separate rates, that doesn't mean you can't integrate the operations. There'll be synergies, shared inventory, shared purchasing, things like that. So there would be value between the two. But to assure that we have no adverse impact on the Maw's customers, the books initially need to be kept separate.
But not everyone is for a Maw's takeover. Carletta Davis of the We Matter 8 Mile Advocacy Group, which is co-sponsoring tomorrow night's meeting, says she doesn't believe a Maw's takeover is what's best for Prichard in the long run.
I am firmly against us transferring our assets to anybody. We need to retain our assets. We need to retain control of our water. We need to control our own destiny.
Meanwhile, Prichard Mayor Jimmy Gardner has written a letter to state and federal leaders pleading with them to address the critical water infrastructure issues. Gardner is asking for emergency federal funding from the EPA and state-level support from the Alabama Department of Environmental Management. He's also demanding an independent audit of the system and equitable water access. And his letter ends by saying this: the city of Prichard stands united in the fight for clean water justice. We encourage local leaders, community advocates, and residents to join us in demanding the same level of assistance that has been granted to other cities facing similar challenges. While there may be differences of opinions, everyone seems to agree on this: something has to be done to help the citizens of Prichard.
The system is at a crisis point. The time for action is now. Policymakers need to take the political piece of this out and look at what is best for their citizens, for their customers, and do the right thing. And we are convinced that the operation by Maw's is the right answer.
So what can you do as a citizen? Well, you can make your voice heard. Tomorrow night, We Matter 8 Mile, in partnership with Mobile Baykeeper, is hosting a town hall. Receiver John Young will be there to explain the situation and hear your questions and concerns. Tonight, Cade Kistler with Mobile Baykeeper tells NBC 15 News your participation can be vital.
Tomorrow night's town hall is a critical moment for the people of Prichard. The meeting is a chance for citizens to hear directly from the receiver about what's happened at the utility, about what the path is going forward, and to get their questions answered and tell the receiver their concerns so that they can make their voices heard. It's going to take tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars to fix these problems, and that's why it's really important that citizens are informed, they understand the options and the decisions ahead of them, and they have an opportunity to get involved.
Tomorrow's town hall is at 6 p.m. at Sure Word Outreach Ministries on Dunlop Circle in Prichard. So how did Prichard's water system get to this point? That's a story of more than a decade of political entanglement, missed opportunities, and even law enforcement raids. And part of the troubling story is the fact that Mobile County voters actually approved a Maw's takeover of the system not once, but twice. That first vote was in 2012 with the passage of a statewide referendum to allow Maw's to take over the Prichard Waterworks and Sewer Board. But the following year, the Alabama Supreme Court overruled the voters, sending control of the Prichard system back to the Water Board. Voters did it again in June of 2014, but just 2 months after the vote, Maw's backed out after the Prichard Water Board in a surprise move renewed a $25 million contract with Severn Trent to operate the Prichard system, only to cancel that contract a year later, basically thwarting the voters' efforts to stabilize the system, which chugged along for a few more years until the next big controversy in 2018, when a multi-year battle over fire hydrants began between the utility and the city of Prichard, with the water system shutting off water to City Hall, citing more than $250,000 in unpaid water bills. But it was in February of 2022 when the utility's house of cards really began to collapse. That's when NBC 15 News obtained credit card reports from the Prichard Water Board outlining 4 4 years of questionable spending, which included the now infamous purchase of a $17,000 Louis Vuitton handbag and a $9,000 Gucci handbag.
The Louis Vuitton bags and some of the other things are included, as well as a lot of building materials and building supplies that have been purchased on behalf of the Prichard Water Board but not used at Prichard Water Board facilities.
2 weeks later, the Mobile County DA's office announced it was investigating the Prichard Water and Sewer Services Board for that questionable spending. Shocking stuff. But what would happen next would trigger anger and astonishment for the beleaguered utilities customers. A local and federal raid of the utilities office in Prichard.
For lack of a better term, this is a criminal enterprise that was going on at the Prichard Water Board.
Nia Bradley, the former operations manager, was arrested. And 2 days later, her home was the scene of yet another raid where Bradley's husband was arrested. There would be other arrests in November. Things fell mostly quiet until June of 2023, when the utility fell more than $1 million behind in bond payments, prompting bondholders to file a suit to appoint a receiver. That happened in November, bringing us to the report you saw from this studio last night at 10, when the court-appointed receiver, John Young, brought this entire mess back full circle, saying the only solution for Prichard's troubled and decaying water and sewer system is for Moz to take it over and rebuild it and operate it. NBC 15 News committed to holding those in power accountable. So if you see an issue in our community that we need to address, give our Reality Check hotline a call.